Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Today's episode of Legal Tea is a cautionary tale where we talk about a real-life case with real-life clients and real-life facts. Though, of course, names are altered for confidentiality purposes. Today may feel and sound a little different because today is not going to be about a single client, like an individual one-client case, but instead a very, very common trend amongst a group of clients that we very routinely serve. And who is that group of clients, you ask? Farmers. I recently read an article in Farm World newspaper, and to be totally clear, my husband Justin gets this newspaper. I can't take credit for signing up to receive it. Justin was a farm kid growing up, and now we live out in the country, have cattle and tractors. So I think most would consider us to have a small little farm. I had a client say once, after sharing with them about our cattle, "Hey, you have a farmette, like a little mini farm." And I was like, yeah, kind of. So that is why we get Farm World. Justin genuinely is interested in many of the topics that they cover, but routinely there is an article that he has me read. And recently that happened, and it inspired this episode, actually. And I've got a link to the article in the source links for this episode if you care to check it out. Though you can consider this episode a Jenny version summary of that article. If you've been following along on Legal Tea, you know I'm from Indiana, and I practice law here in Indiana. When many think about the great state of Indiana, they think corn and beans and farming. We're in the Midwest after all. My office has 3 offices. Our main office is in the county that borders the county that holds our capital, so it's not quite as rural as the other 2 offices. And ironically enough, we live in this county that I'm talking about. We live in this small, tiny portion of the county that is still rural. Our other 2 offices are in much more rural counties, and as a byproduct of all this, we have many, many clients that are farmers. And trust me, they 100% need an attorney like us that only does this type of estate and elder law work. So today's episode is the why so many farmers completely fail to plan their estate or fail to plan for retirement, to pass the farm down. A very large percentage of farmers, according to the article, is to the tune of 75% fail to have a succession plan in place for the farm. In my experience, and also as the article suggests, there's a variety of reasons farmers fail to plan, and most I'd consider to be excuses. So let's chat about what these reasons are, or why I think they're merely excuses. So reason and excuse number 1, they want to be fair. Inevitably, this comes up, right? So often the kids or whoever the beneficiaries are all over the place. What I mean by this is usually one or 2 help on the farm, and there's usually one, or at least that, has no desire to take over the farm and has not been participating in the farm operation. For this reason, many farmers feel the need or desire to pave the way for the farm kid to take over when they want to retire or when they pass. But they don't want to say it out loud because what about the non-farming kids? One of my favorite things I say routinely to clients, whether we're talking about the farm or a business even, is that sometimes fair is not always equal. This is not some earth-shattering idea. For example, the kid helping on the farm is putting in significantly more sweat equity into the farm than the kid not helping on the farm. Is it fair to give that kid more or all of the farm? Perhaps. Will things be equal at the end? Honestly, probably not. But remember, fair is not always equal. Beneath this reason or excuse is usually fear. They don't want to make the one mad that is not farming, and I understand. So often, families, when talking about when their kids or beneficiaries inherit, think that treating them equal means you love them equally. And if you give one more, you love that one more. No, just stop that thinking. This is your plan. You're in the driver's seat, and you should do what you want to do, period, end of story. And I promise, an unequal distribution does not relay that you love one more than the other. Reason or excuse number 2, the cost, legal fees. I get it. I don't like spending money either. But when it comes to important stuff, I don't question it. For example, we have a highly qualified, highly experienced CPA accountant that does all things taxes for us. We own a business. We have a lot of things going on from a tax standpoint. Is he cheap? He's not cheap. But is the peace of mind worth it, knowing he's the best in the biz, he's doing the right thing? That peace of mind is priceless. I'd much rather pay him to do a good job than get in trouble with the IRS. And it's the same thought process here, farmer friends. Professionals come with fees, yes, and they're not going to be cheap. But will they be worth it? For sure. If you're working with a good, reputable, qualified professional. The article mentioned something hilarious. I laughed out loud when I read it, so I'm going to mention it here. So the article says, quote, "Remember, a large floater tire for a spreader, combine, or other implement can easily run $6,000 to $8,000. If the legacy of your farm is not worth the price of one tire, I would question how committed you are to that legacy." End quote. Boom! Mic drop. Yes, I loved that piece in the article. So, insider secret, sometimes hiring professionals, especially if you operate your farm truly as a business entity, could mean you could write off some of the fee on your taxes. So if you're looking for an incentive, there's a little nugget for you. Reason excuse number 3, where to begin? Oh, the overwhelm. You know, I often say the hardest part of estate planning is starting the process. So often when a prospective client ends up in our conference room, they are very likely moving forward with some sort of plan. And that's because making the appointment takes a lot of courage. It sounds silly, but it's not. From there, the conversation flows, the ideas flow, and we're moving through the process. So the whole idea of, I don't know where to begin, reason, excuse, let this be the end of that. The where to begin is getting the conversation started by making an appointment. From there, don't hem-haw, keep moving forward, hold yourself accountable. One thing I've heard along these same lines is that sometimes people don't know who to call. Again, I somewhat think that's an excuse too. Ask around to your fellow farming friends. Ask them if they've done their estate planning. If they have, ask who did they use and did they feel the attorney did a good job? And if they have not, keep asking. You got others. You know, in our rural offices, a very common referral to us is from fellow farming families. You know, the Smiths took the initiative to do their plan and realized, hey, we know what the heck we're doing at my law firm. So the Smiths told the Collins family, and the Collins family told the Thomas family, and the Smiths told the Forrest family, etc. Just like we talked about in a prior episode when we talked about professional versus quote professional, check your referrals against the internet. Check them against, local and other professionals. Do your homework, and that homework should lead you to the right place. Reason, excuse, number 4, putting it off. Procrastination. One thing I routinely hear from clients is, okay, Jenny, if I die, and oftentimes I'll stop them in their tracks and say, if? You mean when? Unless someone out there has some secret magic potion or something, we're all going to pass away. The somewhat icky thing about doing what I do for a living is that I see and hear a lot of really cruddy stuff. 30-year-olds who have passed away, 40-year-olds who have had strokes, 50-year-olds getting diagnosed with dementia. Life, as we all know, is short, and it's certainly not guaranteed for a long time, nor forever. So if we know we are going to pass away, but not sure when, why would you keep putting it off? Especially you farmers. Super sadly, there are many accidents in farming. You all work with some real heavy machinery. There are grain bin accidents. You're often on the road a lot between different tracts of land. You work really early mornings and stay really late at night, meaning you're sleepy and possibly more prone to accidents, etc. Along these lines, a big reason we help farm families, too, is to protect the family farm against long-term care costs and Medicaid. It is possible, but the best plan is one that is done proactively and not in the 11th hour. Even in the 11th hour, there are options, but sometimes they are not fun options to discuss. So yeah, I don't want to scare you with all this procrastination talk, but at the same time, get a move on it, friends. Reason and excuse number 5, Operation I'm doing nothing. And this is the final one I'm going to be talking about. The old, the kids can figure it out when I die. Well, that is a legitimate option on the table, but why on earth is that the best option on the table? You worked your tail off to be in the position you are in, and you are not going to pick the best option on the table? I'm certain you'd rather have your kids or beneficiaries get the farm rather than the lawyers and IRS who get to pick up any pieces that you left. And if your peeps start fighting, it's a bad day for your estate and family, and a really good day for an estate litigator. This is not rocket science, people. You either clean it up and do things now, or it gets cleaned up later, likely at a much higher cost. I know much of this episode has been somewhat tongue-in-cheek, and I'm trying to keep the topic kind of light and at the same time call your attention that so many, if not all of the reasons and excuses we hear from farmers on not doing any estate planning are silly excuses. One of my favorite things to say, you can ask my team at the office, I say this all the time, we are a product of our choices. I firmly believe that too. So you can choose to do planning or not, but there sure are way more downfalls about the or not, and I can promise you that. I can promise you that, and it's, yes, my personal, but also my professional opinion. Alrighty, that ends this cautionary tale episode. Next week's topic is a current event, a current trend, something I've seen or run across that I think would be interesting on here. And usually at the tail end of episodes, I try to give a little insider secret, a little hint as to what's to come in the next episode. But I have a few different topics that I want to talk about, and I haven't decided on which one yet. So that's why you're not getting a hint this week. So tune in next Tuesday, Legal Tea listeners. Until then, be well and talk soon.